Hey, good people. Grits or cream of wheat? Who the hell is racist? Does anyone ever ask if they touch your hair?
Black Like Me.
You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G., a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. G.
Black Like Me.
Hey, good people. Welcome back to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. And this is our Season 4 wrap-up episode. Recently, I was giving a lecture to a group of graduate students, and one of them wrote the question in the chat room, how do you keep yourself from imploding? How do you engage with all that's going on, and you try to help white allies, and you're certainly an advocate for black folks? And I talked about a number of things that I do. I pray, I exercise. But one of the things I said is I have an outlet that's called Black Like Me. I have a place to go to talk about my fears, my frustrations, my concerns, my observations, and it helps me. It helps me. I have a place to go and rant, and people don't say shut up. They can choose not to listen, but people are listening and supporting and telling others. And so I want you to know that Black Like Me is not just this one-way vehicle where I get to rant and just merely talk, but you're beginning to talk back with me. Those of you who are patrons, we're engaging in conversations. You're asking me questions. I'm addressing them. But I get something out of this as well. And it's not just a place just to spout off or go off, but it actually helps me to be healthier by not holding all of this in. So I appreciate that. I really do. Season 4. What can I say about Season 4? Wow. I have to be careful because this wrap up can be longer than one of the Season 4 episodes. There's so much that has happened. All right. So late last year, at the end of 2019, I thought I want to talk about the disparities in Wisconsin, my home state, the health disparities, educational disparities, economic disparities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we started Season 4 off with this this concept of Wisconsin, a state of emergency. And then what happens? You know what happens. Crap hit the fan, the world turned upside down, all the things that we're still reeling with. You know what I'm talking about. It became apparent to me that Wisconsin was not different, that we weren't this enigma. In fact, we were a microcosm of what's happening to black people, by white systems, I should say, led by white people in this country. And what I believe we've been able to do is to help those who thought these issues of disparity, this unspoken racism, microaggressions were just a thing of certain cities, upper Midwest, places where there are low percentages of people of color. Well, we have had an awakening and an education this year, haven't we, folks? And so the whole apple cart is turned upside down. And so we started off talking about Wisconsin, and then we started seeing things together, listening together, talking together. For many, this has been a year of unparalleled and unprecedented growth. For our non-black friends, let me just start with the white people. It's been a year of understanding things that were unfathomable to you. To our Asian American brothers and sisters, many spoke of a newfound connection with African Americans, folks who experienced racism because of mask, no mask, in association with COVID-19, with Asia. And for many, you've commented on how your oblivion to our pain and our story has hindered our communities from working together. I had an excellent episode with my friend Peter On about, can blacks and Asians really work together? Can we learn from each other? Can we become allies? So we've seen a lot. And so we're taking a pause just to regroup and think about where we go next. But before we do that, don't be sad. We're going to give you some good news about what we can do before we gather again. But I just want to just hit a couple of highlights of what we talked about this year in case you missed it so that you can go back. I want to give you 7 observations that I've made during COVID that I'd like to share with our listening audience, and then a couple of next step things you can do just to keep you connected to the cause. All right, so this year we talked about COVID and its impact on the African American community. I'm just hitting the highlights. I'm not going to go into all the details because you can listen. But I will say this. The conversation that I had with Dr. Luther Gaston was quoted by our local city and county public health department. They said, if you want to know more about disparities about COVID-19 and African Americans, please refer to Dr. Alex G's podcast episode, whatever, with Dr. Luther Gaston. I love the fact that my voice is being referenced by the Department of Public Health. We've watched and we've seen the killings of Black people with new eyes. Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake was not killed, but he was shot in Kenosha. You watched it with us. You saw things that we've been seeing for a long time. I grew up hearing about Emmett Till from Chicago, who died in the South. Excuse me. These are things that we as Black people were raised hearing about. Our grandparents talked about lynching. Our parents talked about Emmett Till. And you watched with us in horror. And now you understand some of the tension, some of the pressures, and some of the concern that parents have when their Black sons and daughters are not in their care. I'm 56 years old, and you've heard me say this. I still ask for a receipt and a bag when I shop, even if it's just for a bottle of Visine, because it's so ingrained in me. I didn't know why I had to do that. But now as an adult, I realize my mother wanted there to be no doubt that I had shoplifted something. She wanted me to be able to present the bag and the receipt, because if I were caught shoplifting, I'd be put in a police car, taken someplace, and she couldn't protect me. There's a long-standing brokenness between Blacks and law enforcement. I spent part of this week training local police officers on the history of their industry. And we ask at the beginning of the session, excuse me, sorry, something in my throat. We ask, how many of you know about the history of law enforcement? Very few knew that the history of law enforcement in this country was really bringing back slaves, runaway slaves, to their owners. So that tension, that history, that law enforcement's job was to further degrade, Black people and bring them back to their owners who can continue to make money and profit off of them. That's our history. And unless we hit the reset button, what's changed? We talked about voting conditions. Oh my gosh. Something in Wisconsin that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. When our governor, Tony Evers, tried to change voting, Wisconsin went from over 100 voting stations in Milwaukee, I should say, down to 8, and mainly in Black and brown and poor neighborhoods. People stood in line for hours. We know that people got COVID while standing out there in such close proximity. But right under our noses, these are things that we used to read about in Selma and other places and think, thank God that'll never happen again in this country. Same thing, different wrapping paper. Voter conditions and voter repression. The economic disparity has become clear. Criminal justice. We're watching crimes perpetrated against Black people and no accountability. And this isn't just with police officers, but with the man who killed Ahmaud Arbery. Until there was a lot of national attention and pressure, who knew that these two men walked after killing this man in cold blood? How many of us even knew that? We talked about health in general, not just COVID-19, but the stress caused by microaggressions. Now, when Black people and people of color navigate white spaces, the pressures, the innuendo, the looks, the questions, causes a stress that not only makes us more prone to COVID-19, it makes us prone to things like dementia and Alzheimer's. I know, because I'm the co-founder and co-chair of the Black Brain Health Committee. It's a collaboration of black folks in our community and the Alzheimer's and Dementia Research Center, a component of the School of Medicine here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I'm hearing the science from national and international leading scientists in this area. And we're talking about all the things that begin to set Black people up for dementia, including stress and trouble reading in the second and third grade. It's appalling. It is appalling. It's horrible that being Black is such a beautiful thing to me, but it brings with it, because of the stress of racial systems and racism, such a heavy taxation. It's unfair. This year, we saw growth in patrons. We saw a tremendous growth, about a 6-time growth in patrons. Many people joined us because they heard a 21-day challenge by my good friend, Eddie Moore Jr. Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. is a close friend. We collaborate. We check in on each other. I love getting notes from Eddie Moore Jr. He writes me and goes, "Hey, Black man, how you doing?" He forgets I have a first name, so he always calls me Black man. "Hey, Black man, how you doing?" "Black man, congratulations, Black man." So I love this brother. Many of you who have found your way here by way of listening to what Eddie Moore Jr. said, thank you. And let me tell you, you all came because someone suggested it. So I'd like for you to do the same. Pay that forward. Tell someone, retweet that 21-day thing. We still need it. And so help us get the word out to more people. I'll come back to that later. But I appreciate the growth, because the growth allows us to really market better. It allows us to consider other outlets and other ways for getting this message out. And it helps us to continue to improve upon this product. And so I just want to pause here. You're going to hear me say this twice. I really need you all to pause. I don't care if it's $2 a month, but I really need the people who find this beneficial. Show some love and help grow this Black enterprise, this Black business, to become a more prominent voice in this country. If it warrants and it's earned your attention, then don't think of yourself as an enigma. Others will find it intriguing as well. Help us get the word out to more people. We've implemented redrops on Thursdays because we've had so many new listeners and partners that we felt you might not have known some of the interesting conversations with, say, Dr. Richard Harris, having grown up in Madison, Dr. Robin DiAngelo. We've spoken with Kyle Korver, who recently played for the Milwaukee Bucks. We had really great conversations. Judge Everett Mitchell, about the pipeline from social services to prison. We've talked to Jerome Dillard, the executive director of Wisconsin's ex-incarcerated people organizing. There have just been so many folks. Ed Wall, former Secretary of Corrections for the state of Wisconsin, and so many others. So we dropped those. Those were a hit. If you've not listened to those, take a moment to do so, because they go back to past seasons. And actually, Ed Wall was this season. But it gives people a flavor of what we've been talking about. Because I want you to know we've been ahead of this curve. That Black Like Me has been talking about things in America that reveal themselves this year. And so those of you who've been listening with me for the long haul, you know we've been talking about this. And so although you are shocked, you are not surprised. Let's see, what else do I have on here? In essence, it just feels like 2020 has been open season on Black people. I'm not a victim. I'm not descendant of victims, because we would have been annihilated a long time ago. But I have to keep saying this, because in times of peacefulness, folks thought that I was a lunatic or just an angry Black man. How dare you, suburban Fitchburg homeowner, Black dude with a Black wife and a Black kid and a Black house, and you got a degree and church and a business. How dare you decry of injustice? And then people watched and they saw. Got to tell you something, folks. It takes a toll, but it just feels like it's open season on Black people. So I'm asking you, Black Like Me podcast listeners, what will you do? What will be your role? What will you do to make the world better, to make yourselves more informed, to make sure that your children, for those of you who are white, don't fall into the trap of the socialization that quietly grows and grooms new racist, by not talking about it. Some of you think your children won't catch it, but supremacy and entitlement is everywhere. And it's calling to your children. This is your country. Let's make it great again. Let's get in your place. So I want you to know I'm not just here to make you feel bad, and I'm not here to make you feel better. I've had to have the talk with my daughter about race. Have you spoken with your daughter? This year we saw Amy Cooper, remember the woman out in Central Park who weaponized the police by telling that black gentleman, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the police and tell them that a black man is threatening me. Do you know how traumatizing that was for black mothers? Because their fear is that. And can I just give you some real talk? It's to wrap up. So let me just talk. Lean in. Let me tell you something. A lot of black women tell their black sons, do not date white women because there's a chance that if they get upset with you, they will weaponize the police. Now, I said it. You listen, I should have just said that to the patrons. I'm going to give that to everybody. But I tell you what, patrons, we can continue this conversation. It is not just because it's a different race and, you shouldn't do that. There's a fear among black women that your sons will be accused. Our sons will be accused of rape and battery and threatening a white woman and will end up like Emmett Till. There's a real fear of that. You just need to know that. So sometimes you look at that and think, well, that's reverse racism. Call it what you want. But that woman in Central Park unveiled almost every black woman, black mother of a black son's fear. That was traumatizing. That was as traumatizing as watching the police show up and beat him, because it showed she believes that police treat black people differently. Old girl proved to America, to black America, so y'all do believe that there's a different treatment. The way she said it, the way she taunted it, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to tell them that a black man is threatening me. So it just felt like open season. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna. So you get a black DA, and then you get this ruling, and there's no indictment against the police officer except for firing into a space, but yet this woman is dead. It's just horrible, you all. It's horrible. It's horrible. And I'm not just saying because it's a black DA they should have gone to jail, but I'm just saying the optics of these officers must be innocent because a black man had it within his power to do this. And oh my gosh, Portland and just so much stuff that's been going on in the country. This is just crazy. Then when the fires, I just said to my wife a couple of weeks ago, I just said, honey, the world is not coming to an end, is it? This isn't the end of the world, is it? Because it just seems like it. But an uncovering concerning race, an uncovering of what has been so prevalent. Non-black friends. Don't turn away. So it's open season. And yes, my word for this year has been beleaguered. #beleaguered. Because even on good days, all it takes is one story about something taking place. You catch your breath after George Floyd, and then we start talking more about Breonna Taylor, and then Blake and Kenosha, and the president not denouncing white supremacy. It just feels like open season on black people. And it's not new, but it's just so prevalent. So, this is part of my rant, but sometimes it's just so overwhelming that I don't even have the energy to yell anymore. It's just to say it emphatically. Open season on black people. But this will end. This will stop. So, can I just tell you 7 things that I take away from this season of understanding that it's not just Wisconsin, state of emergency, but the United States is a state of emergency, which means the world is in a state of emergency. So, 7 things. 1, racial trauma is real. I want my non-black listeners to understand this. Racial trauma is real. I live in a community where the School of Medicine is studying and talking about the impact of this racial trauma. This is pre-COVID-19. Pre-COVID-19, our mayor stated that racism is a health condition, that it is that the stress that comes from racial isolation is a health hazard. She just made that declaration, and it was ratified by our city council, that they've stated that this is now racism is a social determinant of health. So I want you to know that this is real, and even though and those things have contributed to stress and stress-related illnesses like diabetes and hypertension, which makes us Black people, brown people, people of color more prone to COVID-19. But as I told you earlier, also to Alzheimer's and dementia. And so stress is a sucker. Stress is a beast. And when you can't control it, it's crazy. I might be having a great day, but my wife is experiencing microaggressions at work, and we might be good and we both got a promotion and we're celebrating that we've broken the glass ceiling, but then our daughter is dealing with microaggressions of something a professor did on campus, or that's happening, or I've got to find a center for my mom with dementia where the 21-year-old aides aren't calling my 80-year-old mom by her first name, Verlene. In my community, you wouldn't dare open your mouth and call an 80-year-old grandma by their first name. That's disrespectful. That's Miss Verlene or Mrs. G or Mama V, but you don't call somebody by their first name when they got that much gray hair and they've got 60 years on you. So for me, it's always juggling. And if mama's good, wife is good, daughter's good, I'm good, I turn on the television and find out something about Ahmaud or George Floyd or Jacob Blake or Breonna Taylor. The trauma is real. I don't need you to feel sorry for me. I just need you to know this. I just need you to know that when you see us and we're not smiling or some stuff is going on, it's probably not anything you did. It's weighty. And we now have medical science proving that it is killing us, shortening our lives. Just need you to know that racial trauma is here and it's real. Point 2, but Black resilience is real also. When I went to West Africa in 2018, and I've got reflections on that. So just if you go to my website, alexg.com, some of you just interact with my podcast through iTunes or Spotify or other places like that. That's great. But if you go to alexg.com, there's a search bar on the website. If you just type Ghana, all the podcasts and blogs that I've created around that trip are there. I've got some powerful poems. I've got a powerful interview with some folks. You need to listen to that. But I was awakened to the resilience and the strength of Black people. And I was told by a Ghanaian tour guide in that slave castle, you all are the descendants of the strong of Africa, of the strongest of the strong of our people. Everything our ancestors went through, captured, beaten, raped, put in these caves and not bathed for 4 to 6 weeks, standing in 18 inches of everyone's feces, branded like cattle, walked through the door of no return, went off to Europe, the Americas, and 400 years later, you've come back to show us, to show Mother Africa you survived. He honored us and said, you are honorable. You are descendants of our strongest. That resilience is what I am determined to push, preach, push. I already said that. Teach about it, talk about it, and cultivate. Because I need that strength now. And this stuff that we're going through is rough, but it's nothing like the Middle Passages, and it's nothing like 18 inches of feces for 4 to 6 weeks. It's nothing like being branded with a hot iron and separated from your child, from your spouse, on different ships, never to see motherland, Mother Africa again. We can get through this. And so I want you to understand that we will work on our resilience, but we need you, non-African Americans, to work on privilege, to work on structures, to ask questions like, where are the Black people? Well, hold it. We're not going to do this hiring. Hold it. Nope. We're not going to go for it. Nope. This pool of candidates is not right. We're not going to say, well, we tried. Nope. We're going to stop stuff. We're going to stop stuff. We're going to do what we do. We're going to be resilient. But non-Black folks, this is not blackface. This is not entertainment. This is not vaudeville. This is not the Cotton Club. Don't just look at our plight and go, Ask yourselves, What would you do if these were your children, your family? And what can you do within your spheres of influence to bring attention to these issues and speak up? Black resilience is real also. Here's three. We're making noise and folks are listening. There are people who have never said, about race relations. But what they've seen in the media, the response to George Floyd's death, his murder, people in Syria, people in Germany, people talking about him, people saying what's going on in America. I've done workshops for folks in Singapore, folks in Korea. There's people in Hong Kong. Alex, what the hell is happening in the United States with black people? So I want you to know the world is watching. They're watching. But here's the next point. But we can't let the rhetoric die down because that happens. The Edmund Pettus Bridge marching took place and it got national attention when the folks were beaten. But then after King was killed, it sort of went silent. We arrived. We overcame. Right. No. So here's the thing. Watch this. As the flames go out and the television stations change their focus, this will become rhetoric that will die. Unless you keep talking about it, unless you keep tweeting about it. White allies or would-be allies or almost allies or not allies have said to me, Doc, you got to keep writing about this. You got to keep this in front of us. Because when white people see what's happening, they want to react. But it's not my job to keep white people tense, to keep that line tight. That's not my job. My job is to speak up on issues. But white people have got to talk. And our non-white, non-black allies, you got to talk also. You got to talk also because the rights of your people have come by and large through the bloodshed of my people. And that's just who we are. We fought for freedom for everybody. That's not what the history books would tell you. We didn't just march for black people. We made sure that other people were impacted. The Immigration Act in the 1960s was based upon civil rights activity led by black people. And so don't let the rhetoric die down. If people used to talk about it, but they don't talk about it anymore, they used to wear T-shirts, but don't wear it anymore, because people are hoping that we can ride into the sunset. And we want the masks to go away. We want the virus to go away. And we want racism to go away. But you know what? When we get a vaccine, and I'm not taking that right away. When we get a vaccine and we begin to address this and this begins to go away and we begin to rebuild our economy, don't just assume that racism goes away. Racism was not caused by COVID-19. It was unveiled by COVID-19. Come on, people. COVID-19 did not invent racism, nor did Donald Trump. He is not smart enough to invent racism. It was there. Do not allow this to become rhetoric because your children will then inherit it. And so will mine. Next, protests are not riots. Period. So many people are protesting. And listen, there are people in there that do riot, that riot and burn. And I'm not down for that. Don't you dare write me and ask me what I think about it. I will not answer your question. If you write me and say, what do you think? Do I sound like I believe in burning down buildings? Don't insult me with that ignorance. But also, open your eyes. When you look at these protests, there have been clips of white people infiltrating them, doing things to instigate. Black folks are saying, hey, this is what's going on. I'm seeing black people break. I'm seeing white people breaking windows. I'm seeing this going on. So just know, don't let protests and riots and black people seeking rights and freedom, don't let that all become synonymous. Okay? I need y'all to help us with that. That confusing crap cannot continue. Don't be confused. 5, or is it 6? Well, I got a bunch of them. I'll just keep going. Anyway. Trump is not the problem. No, let me put it this way. Trump is a problem, but Trump is not the problem. Be careful. Trump is problematic. He is not the problem of race relations. Because white people, if we think this and we elect him out in November because he's got to go. That's why he's talking about stand down and stand by and it's going to be rigged. And I don't know if I'm going to leave the White House because he knows he's losing. And he's trying to put doubt in the minds of confused people that they've got to protect him and themselves. But let me tell you something. Racism's been in this country for over 400 years. Racism came and discovered this country in around 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Because if we think Trump's the problem, when Trump is evicted, We will think that the problems will go away. We will start singing Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. No, because Trump and all his rhetoric is still benefiting some very rich and racist Democrats. You do understand that just because someone is Democratic doesn't mean that they're non-racist. You do know that, right? And if we think that we've arrived by getting rid of him, then we put no pressure on Joe and the Senate and governors to do their part. Biden's got to be clear. Harris has got to be, I want them to win, but they got to be clear. What's the agenda for black people? What's the business for black wealth development? What's the vision for making sure that, what's the corporate vision for anti-racism training, to eradicating the anti-black perspectives, greater partnerships, greater support of nonprofits? You can't just move Trump and then just leave things there. No, the Democrats have got to get a good platform. I'm not impressed by it yet. You can't just fix this by having a black woman as your running mate. What are you going to do for people that look like her? Our businesses, our pockets, our dreams, our kids' education. What are you going to do about the over-militarization of police officers and how they interact with our communities and the lack of dollars for prevention? So we need a plan that's going to strengthen and heal the black community. Black people, we're working on an agenda as well. But I'm just saying, let's not just think that because Trump is gone, happy days are here again. No. Black people were really under siege when Clinton was in office. We just didn't talk about it. And when Obama was in office, we just didn't talk about it. We did. Y'all didn't. So Trump has got enough stuff to be blamed for, and certainly he is emboldening it, and he is throwing a match on this flame or on this kerosene. But he's speaking to a need in the community, a white need to be heard and seen, and that someone's going to still talk to that group. It's not like he's going to go silent. And these folks still want their rights, and they want their damn America back. So just know, people, we've got some work to do. Getting rid of Trump is one of them, but then getting rid of racism is a little tougher, because Trump's only 8? Racism's about a half a millennium. Y'all got me? Let's not let the rhetoric die. Let's not give him more power than he has. 2 more points. Don't change the world all at once. You just be the change that you want to see. Sometimes my non-black allies will say, now tell me that point again, because I want to argue it with my brother. I want to argue it with my neighbor. No, you don't need to be arguing people. I'm too old to be arguing, because I got to put my energy in working with the people who want to get it. I'm not really that interested in the 95% of the people who don't get it. If I can get to the 5% who do get it, want to get it, I'm talking about white allies, non-black allies, they can then help me with the 95%. But I only have energy, barely have energy, for those who want to be the change. All right, so that'll help you. It'll save you some gray hair, some stress. It'll help you live a little longer. Don't try to fix everyone who wants to be a jerk on this. You be the change. You spend time with people who want to get it, who are trying to get it, who are trying to figure it out. And my last point is this. We're better than this. We are better than this. It is 2020 and we are still talking about race. It's 2020. We're talking about melanin, skin color. It's 2020. We are still sending dog whistle messages to white supremacy groups. Hell, I thought some of these groups were gone. Do you remember when David Duke was scary? Do you remember when David Duke was scary? This man is David Duke on steroids and cocaine. But you know what's happened? A lot of good white people thought that David Duke was just a fringe thinker. It's not going anywhere. Nobody really thinks like that. And we didn't put it out. It was a small little smoldering fire. We didn't put it out because nobody thought, nobody's listening. A lot of people was listening, which is why he was speaking. And now those people are not going anywhere. They're grown. And can I tell you something? I'm not a gun owner, but my friends who are black, they're telling me, if you are lucky enough to get a gun, you can't find ammunition. Listen. Folks are loading up on stuff for what? Guns for what? Ammunition for what? Because of quarantine, they out practicing targets in the backyard. Nice people have been too silent on racism. And they have not squelched it and put it out, extinguished it, because they just thought, oh, come on, boys will be boys. Them fools out there in Charlottesville, somebody knew that they were off. Come on. White people are not that oblivious. They knew that that white guy was trouble. They knew that there was something in their eyes. Black people will see somebody in our community, and they'll be like, he's off. Something not right. He got a little something in his eyes. Come on. Somebody knew, but they just thought he's just going through some things. His parents are divorced. His dad's mean. His dad works, too much. We're better than this. We are better than this. We are better than this. All of our children should be educated. They should be able to play safely in parks. People should be able to get jobs and loans that they're qualified for. People should be able to sit in front of their yards and not be called names. And we should be able to graduate all of our children, irrespective of their economic background, so that we become a stronger world power, superpower. We're better than this. We have been bequeathed this ugliness because our parents and grandparents perhaps didn't know how to do this. Maybe, because they lacked social media, they didn't understand the underbelly of all this systemic racism and hoarding of poverty and ignorance. But it's out there. It has all been laid bare. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are you going to vote? And then if you vote, are you going to hold your elected officials accountable? Because the national election is not the only election. Are you talking to your school board members? You don't need me to tell you how to do that. Are you talking to your council members, the supervisors of your county board? Are you asking them what their agenda is for empowerment of the Black community, of demilitarization of the police officers, de-escalation training, Black wealth creation? Are you writing to the heads of your chambers of commerce? Come on, white people. Come on, non-Black people. Don't just sit here and ear hustle. Don't just sit here and listen and wring your hands and think about how terrible and racist the world is, the United States is. What are you doing? Because if you're not making it better, you're either making it worse or just maintaining a status quo, which is still bad. So do something. Just ask a question. I don't know what to recommend. You don't have to recommend. Do you make recommendations to your doctors? You just say, hey, my foot hurts. You don't tell them, well, go through the bottom, go through the top, come through my ankle. No, you go to your dentist. I have a toothache. You don't say, I think I need a root canal on number 7 or M, whatever those little codes are. They use codes in the dental office. I don't even know what they're talking about. That's because so you don't get scared. Yeah, there's a contusion on C7. That sounds like my vertebrae. But they just use all kinds of codes in the dentist office so that you don't freak out. What they're really saying is we're about to yank this sucker out. And so don't worry about having the answers, people. Have questions. Have questions. Black Like Me podcast listeners, have questions. Where's the diversity? What's your plan? What are you funding? Why are there no Black people here? Listen, if they take your money, they must take your questions. If they take your money, they must take your questions. If they want your vote, then they get your question. But listen, if you don't ask questions of your white elected leaders, don't you be writing me questions. What should I do? What can I say? I just gave you a whole earful. Do something. Do something, white people. Do something. Couple things that I want, that I just want to say as next steps. What will your next steps be between now and the next season? What will your next steps be? Couple things I want you to do. You've heard me say this, but someone say it some more. Allies, educate, donate, and affiliate. Educate, donate, and affiliate. Educate is not just by listening here. Read some books, watch some movies that are out there. Watch The 13th. Google Kerry Washington on Netflix. It's called An American Story. American Son, I think is what it's called. American Son. Watch it. It's disturbing, but watch it because it's real. Educate. Read some books, watch some movies, listen to other podcasts. Don't you leave me though. Listen to other podcasts, but really indoctrinate yourself to understand the causes so that you can be a part of the solution. The other part is donate. You hear me say this, and I mean, if there are good causes in your community that are strengthening Black folks, support it. Just make sure that it's Black led. I just ask that you make sure that it's Black led. And I'm not saying that to be racist. I'm not going to even justify that for all kinds of reasons. Those monies taken in by white-led entities rarely trickle down in the right way. Trust me, believe me, been in this nonprofit world about 3 decades, know what I'm talking about. The other thing is this. I'm going to ask every person who listens to this podcast to donate something. I don't care if it's $1. I need you to go and do something. Do it for a year and stop if you have to. But it's interesting that sometimes white partners want to be a part of a solution. But many times I hear people say, well, I want to do more than just write a check. I want to be. But you know what? Writing a check, becoming a patron, helps me to produce more content, to talk to more people like you. We're trying to grow, how we produce this, how we grow it, how we mainstream it, and how we market it. But if every person here would do a minimum of $2, come on, that's a month, you all. Come on, that's a tip. But you can do that at other levels. If you do $6 or more, we'll shout your name out. $10 or more, I entertain your questions. But there's a question in our community. Will people go beyond being entertained by us? Will they support us? And if this is a place you go to for good information, if you feel that this has carried any value in your life, any weight in your life, it's caused you to think differently or talk differently or talk to your children differently, you need to support it. So I need you to pause. And before this hour is up, like when we finish, I need you to go and hit that Patreon link, because there's information I'm sharing among patrons. There's training that I'm going to be doing. There's Zooming I'm going to be doing there. And that's where I'm building a community of folks where I'm really training allies. Because this is one way, but when we do this within Patreon, it's 2-way. So I want everyone who finds this beneficial, thousands of people download this every month. But if each of you just do $1 or $2 a month, it would help us to national and international prominence. And that's what I really want. I want more people to hear my voice. We hear the French voices. We hear the supremacist voices. I want people to hear this Black voice of reason, and you can help. You can do that. You can write a review on this, and you can go to Patreon. Do that. I want people to do that between the next season. I want you to come, and I just want you to crush that page, because this helps all of us. This is not just how you help me. This helps all of us. Educate, donate, and then affiliate. That means connect yourself with something. Connect yourself with the issues locally. So if I'm talking about this, and let's just say you live in Delaware, is there an NAACP? Is there a Black Church Alliance? Is the Urban League doing some things? There's some things that are happening locally. Do your research. Come on, white people, you're innovative. Find these things. Get connected. Affiliate. If you want to know more about what we're doing, click the link to find out about my nonprofit, Nehemiah. There's a link right in here. It's nehemiah.org, NEHEMIAH.org. We have pages that tell you what to read, movies to watch, things to consider, articles we've written. Educate yourself. Get connected. Join our mailing list. In early next year, we're going to offer a 9-week online Black history class. We offer all kinds of teaching and learning experiences. Affiliate. That means get on someone's mailing list. Read what they're doing. Learn their stories. Don't just become indoctrinated with history and topical things. Follow organizations that are doing things in Black Alzheimer's research, or Black kidney illness research, or sickle cell anemia, or whatever the criminal justice, mass incarceration. Pick what comes close to home. Find out its impact on Black people and people of color, and follow it. Affiliate means, get connected. Find people that are doing this kind of work. Call up leaders in the community and say, I'm following a podcast that's challenging me to get connected locally. I'd like to know if there are opportunities for me to volunteer at your organization. Can I get on your mailing list? Don't just think that listening to me while you're driving makes you woke. Because if you can't become a patron and you can't get connected in your communities, and this is just background noise, then you're part of the problem and not a part of the solution. So educate here and elsewhere. Donate here and elsewhere. Affiliate. Connect yourself with the issues locally. And again, I want to remind you, you affiliate, do something. You like Black like me? Write a review. You might think, well, I've never written a review. Then make up a name. You don't have to put your real name on there. Nobody's trying to stalk you. But if you're finding this helpful, then do something to pay it forward. Do something to pay it forward. I don't need people just to look at me. I need people to partner with me. Send a message that somehow this is impacting you. When people join as patrons and they write reviews, it lets me know tangibly folks are getting it and they value this. Because we don't know exactly how many people are downloading. I mean, we know the downloads, but we don't know how many people are subscribed. So subscribe also. Wherever you listen, subscribe to this. The other thing is, tell other people. This is what you do when you affiliate. If you listen to something that's really worthwhile, then tell other people. Post it on your social media. I always see people saying, here are 3 new podcasts I'm listening to. Do you know people listen to my podcast because someone just happened to tweet out, here are 3 podcasts I'm listening to. Let people know what you're listening to. Tweet it out. Let's see, what else do I want to say? And just help me to find more listeners. You just be creative. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. If each of you were just to find 2 to 3 more listeners, this would be incredible. You're innovative. Help me to think about that. Just some other things I want to say as we wrap up. I'm connected with organizations that do training on cross-cultural leadership development. We are contracted by actual like municipalities, school districts, corporations, nonprofits, agencies, entertainment groups. If you are part of a company, and we do this on Zoom, and I have researchers and folks with combined. We've got about 70 years of experience and evaluation experiences and HR experience. If you work for a company, entity, agency, hit me up on our contact page. Go to alexg.com. We've got contact. Talk to me, because we can talk with your company. And I also do keynotes. And so I've been doing a lot of them. I've actually been doing more keynotes on COVID than I've done in like the last 2 years. And so if you got a company and they're like, we're looking for a speaker, February fills up really fast. You want someone to talk about these issues for Black History Month. In January, around King Day, I have a contact page. Reach out to me. If you've got an agency, you can be the one that can bring someone to the table. And Zoom makes it so much easier, and WebEx. So reach out to us. 2 things I'm thinking about doing before the next season kicks off, and we don't know when that's going to be, but we want to drop some things in the interim because we don't want you to think we forgot about you. One is we want to do a live Black Like Me Zoom event. So we'll probably do a little notice on the podcast, create something just to say, hey people, we're going to be doing a Zoom conference answering these 3 questions or 4 questions. Interact with Dr. G and his staff, maybe one guest. We'd like to do that, maybe next month. Let us know if that's something you think would be really helpful. You can write us a note. You can tweet out at me. Go to alexg.com and you can find out how to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Get at me. I'm on Instagram. Black Like Me has a presence on Twitter, has a presence on Instagram. Let us know if you like that. And also, there is a documentary that's been created about my family. It's called Justified Journey. It follows my journey in meeting my white relatives. We are all descendants of Reuben Joshua G., a slave owner in Mississippi. Some of you have watched it, but I just want to offer to those of you who are part of Black Like Me a chance to watch it on your own, but then having a Zoom conference or conversation where I can answer questions about the documentary. It's really, really intriguing. So that's something we're thinking about as well. Last thing, I like to support Black businesses and people doing great things in the community. This one happens to be my sister. She's an artist. She just sort of rose to local stardom in the last several months. She came out as an artist last year. She's on the cover of Bravo magazine. She's been contracted by the city of Madison to do art over boarded buildings downtown. Some of her work recently went up on the State Historical Museum. If you know Madison, on our square downtown, right across from the Capitol, she has a whole wall dedicated to her art. She does street signs or yard signs that say Black Lives Matter, Little Black Lives Matter too. She's got a real creative Biden and Harris sign. For those of you who like political signs, click the link about the latest signs. She's got a small business. She can ship signs all over the country, all over the world. Click that link and see if there might be a sign that you might want to put up in your yard. And those of you who are part of our patrons, we are finalizing the merchandise. We have not forgotten about you. We are finalizing our merchandise that we're going to begin making available to patrons. Again, If I want to get a message out quickly, I can make patrons with one text or one email. So join that group so that we can have more interactions together. This has been a great season. I've learned a lot, I've experienced a lot, and I've experienced it with you. Thank you so much for helping Black Like Me podcast be special. We were just nominated as one of the best podcasts in the state of Wisconsin. I want us to be nominated for one of the best podcasts in the nation. You can do that with a review, with your support, and by sharing us with your network. Have a great, great day. We're not going to forget about you while we're off. Stay linked in. I'm going to still be putting things out on Instagram and out on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook under Dr. Alex G or Alex G. And so stay connected because I'm still doing stuff. I'm just getting content ready for when we come back together. I appreciate you all more than you realize. Take all of this to heart. Listen, learn, lean in, become the change you want to see. All right? Thank you.
Ooh, Black Like Me, yeah.
I want to thank Corey Saffold for creating the music for this podcast, my podcast manager, Tyler Nyland, engineer and editor, Eli Steenlich, my editor, Jeremy Holliday, and a special thank you to WORT Studios, where we record Black Like Me.
Ooh, Black Like Me.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find out more about Dr. Alex G's amazing work at www.alexg.com. Black Like Me is sponsored by the generosity of the Human Family Unity Foundation.
Ooh, Black Like Me.